Welcome back, students. This is Mrs. Thompson. We are still in section 4.4, and this is example 2. We're going to find slope from both a graph and a table. And that's what you see on the page in front of you. So if you don't have your note packet, go ahead and get that out right now, and let's work on that. Okay, so we learned the slope formula in example 1. If you remember it, write it in the margin of your paper right now and see if you can do it from memory. Do that now. Okay, now if you wrote m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, you nailed it. That's the slope formula. We use the slope formula when we know 2 points that are on the same line. Okay, so let's look at letter A. We have a graph. I'm going to highlight the line. I'm hoping that will stick out a little bit better if I highlight it. Okay, and there it is. And it looks like they've identified a couple of points from us. I am just such a pragmatist. I really know that if I'm given a graph of a line and I see a grid and it's crossing a grid intersection, I'm probably going to do rise over run. I'm not going to waste my time on the slope formula, but I do want to show you both. Okay, so if you do rise over run, you can do that mentally. Okay, now I'm going to write everything out because I'm doing a video lesson and I need you to see how I'm thinking, so I'm saying it and writing it as well. But you can do this mentally. So if we start at the lower point here, which is at -2, -1, and we're trying to get up here to 2, 2, then I'm going to use the rise over run format. So I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3. Now remember, you stop rising when you're on the same level as the point you're trying to get to. So I went up 3. Now I'm going to start here and I'm going to run to the right 1, 2, 3, 4. And so I went right 4, that's positive 4. So from rise over run, I've determined that my slope is 3/4. To me, guys, that's the easiest way to find slope off a graph. But do you have to do it that way? No, actually you don't. You can come back to your slope formula if you're more comfortable doing it this way, and you can plug in values. Now I'm going to pull those values now. I'm going to call that first point -2, -1, so we'll make that x1, y1. And then the second point is 2, 2, and I'll call that x2, y2. Okay, so let's plug in what we know. y2 is right here, that's positive 2, minus, what's y1? -1. What's 2 minus a -1? You're right, that's positive 3. Okay, so let's go back to x2, that's 2, minus, what's x1? -2, and 2 minus a -2 is 4. So either way, it doesn't matter. If you have a graph, you can use rise over run as long as the line crosses through a grid intersection. 2 grid intersections, you can calculate it using rise over run. If not, plug into the slope formula 2 known points and calculate it that way. So I just wanted to show you both ways so you have options. All right, let's look at letter B, which is the table that was given to us. Now it looks like all the x's are 2's. Did you notice that? You remember what we learned several sections ago? If the x's repeat, this is not a what? And if you said, yeah, it's not a function, you are correct. This is not a function at all. So I do believe it's a straight line, it's just not a function. And so there's only one straight line that's not a function. Do you remember what that is? If you remember, write that down in the margin and I'll give you some extra credit if you did that, okay? All right, let's see here. All we need to do is pick 2 points. I see 4 points. I see 2, 0, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 5. Now you can graph this on a piece of graph paper, And do rise over run? I'm not going to waste my time to do that. I'm just going to pick 2 points and I'm going to plug them into my slope formula. Okay? We've already done this. When we learned rate of change, we did rate of change. We actually were technically doing the slope formula. So I'm just going to pick these first 2 points here. I'm going to call this one 0.1 and I'm going to call this one 0.2. Okay? 0.1, 0.2. And then I'm just going to plug in accordingly. So y2 would be 1. y1 would be 0. Okay, go to your x's. x2 is 2. x1 is also 2. Okay, so let's see what we got. 1 minus 0 is 1. 2 minus 2 is 0. Wait a second, we have a problem here. You can't divide by 0. So what is this slope? Well, you can say it one of 2 ways. You can either say it's undefined, or you could just say there's no slope at all. There's no numerical number that equates to a slope. So you can say it doesn't have a slope. This line does not have a slope. So here's an extra credit problem for you. What kind of line doesn't have a slope at all? So if you remember, write that in the margin if you haven't done so already. It's the same question I was asking you earlier. Okay, so this is the end of example 2. If you flip back in your note packet, here's slopes and tables for you to try. So each one that you see here, give it your best shot. See if you can figure out what the slope of each graph, there's 2 graphs here, in each table. All right, thank you for listening. You're doing a great job.